From Los Angeles, it's the Tom Leykis Show.
That's it. The radio. I'll go on the most popular program of the day. I assume that's still Don McNeil and his Breakfast Club?
Oh, give it the times, man.
It's the Tom Leykis Show.
Oh, I don't think Mr. Burns would like that show.
What's the matter? Think I'm not hip?
And now, here he is, Tom Leykis. Thank you for tuning into the Tom Leykis Show. This is where America gets together to talk about the issues you really care about. It's a different kind of a radio talk program. We're the radio talk show that is not hosted by a right-wing wacko or a convicted felon. No, I am your host. Write down our toll-free telephone number. You got to need it. It's 1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866.
Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being part of our program. We appreciate it. Here we are together again on the radio. And I read to you from a website called theunion.com. The Union, website of a newspaper in Northern California. Here is the story, Dateline, Rockland, California. On the same day, Sierra College students hosted something called a feminist bake sale and observed Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Matt James plopped into a seat at the Dietrich Theater, ready to blast a student columnist for his views on the college's women and their ability to attract men. The column, if this guy, by the way, is not a listener, he really should be. 20-year-old Nicholas Lewis wrote the column, stating that many Sierra College female students, quote, do not fit into the category of hot, leaving them insecure and image conscious. The column in the October issue of the Sierra College Outlook student newspaper created a firestorm that has sparked campus protests, national attention, and a call for Lewis and the newspaper to apologize. What is there to apologize for? You know what side of this one I'm on. Please. Recently, a panel of professional and student journalists shared the stage with a domestic violence counselor and student leaders in an attempt to clear the air. A domestic violence counselor? Are we implying here that saying that chicks are not hot is going to cause guys to commit violent acts? Can I tell you something? When I see chicks that aren't hot, I don't commit violent acts against them. In fact, I don't want to touch them. Why would anyone think this would cause domestic violence? Maybe somebody out there can explain this to me. Maybe one of those domestic violence counselors would like to explain it to me. Unbelievable. This is Matt James, 24, a California State University at Sacramento student, wore a "This is what a feminist looks like" t-shirt and rings lining both earlobes and studded into his lips. This has been all blown out of proportion, James said. Perhaps if it were written about race, the column would have been spiked. But it wasn't. And the editors and the faculty advisor have no plans to issue any retractions or apologies for the piece, despite the objections of students, some faculty, and domestic violence prevention advocates. Lewis wrote that the majority of Sierra College girls are insecure. This is his quote now. These insecurities cause girls to be uncomfortable with themselves and the world around them. To compensate for these insecurities, they put on a masquerade in an attempt to demonstrate fortitude and interior beauty. Sierra College doesn't have the hottest girls unless you are incredibly superficial, wrote Lewis, who was noticeably absent from Tuesday's discussions. Outlook editor Eric Fritz Davis, layout manager Sarah Tier, and faculty advisor Kent Pollock defended the newspaper and the column and said, The staff agonized for hours before deciding to publish it. In no way was this meant to be run as a sensational piece, Fritz Davis said before the panel discussion, noting that all 2,000 copies of the paper have been snapped up. By the way, we could not find a copy of this column. We've been looking. We haven't found it. Many students and Julie Day, crisis counselor for the Sacramento-based Women Escaping a Violent Environment, stood squarely against the column, which they said degrades women and, get this, could incite violence against them. You gotta be kidding me. Have you ever seen a not-so-hot chick and thought, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to give this chick a punch in the face. Ever? I never have. When I see chicks that are unhot, here's what I think. I don't want to touch you, and I definitely don't want to see you naked. That's it. Never in a million billion years would I commit a violent act against a chick for not being hot enough. I don't understand this thinking at all. This is Julie Day speaking. She said, it is not so much what was written, but the way in which it was written. The column's violent mindset is accomplished by minimizing a woman's accomplishments, she said. Well, we know what women's accomplishments are. Seriously, trying to look good enough to attract a man who will pay her bills, performing fellatio on a regular basis, cranking out children, and when the marriage doesn't work out, taking more than half of everything we have. Now, just because that I and many sensible Americans believe what I believe doesn't mean we commit violent acts. We're not violent people. We just believe in calling a spade, or a chick, or a babe, or in the case of the chicks at Sierra College, apparently not a babe. Call it a bitch. That's right. Nothing violent about that. Julie Day said, I, for one, will stand with men and women who say they will not stand this attack on women. Pollock, a newspaper reporter and editor for more than 30 years before reviving the student newspaper last year, said the First Amendment protects the newspaper's right to freedom of expression. His own ethics, Pollock said, also prevented him from spiking the column. I'm a faculty advisor, not an editor, said Pollock, who worked for the Sacramento Bee, the Miami Herald, the Philadelphia Inquirer, and the Anchorage Daily News before coming to Sierra College in 2002. Had he been the editor, he wouldn't have run the column in its present form, only because of the column's incomplete thought process and immature tone, he said. Student panelist Molly Eisenberg said the First Amendment shouldn't trump offensive speech. We support the outlook, she said, just because they're supported by the First Amendment. They shouldn't be supporting a hostile environment for women. Oh, give me a break! Not writing columns like this is not going to suppress the thoughts expressed in the column. If we think you're not hot, you're not hot. Just because you can't print it in the newspaper doesn't mean you're going to change our minds about it. You're a bunch of hairy-pitted, granola-eating, butched-up, chunky chicks. Not being able to write that in the newspaper is not going to make us feel any differently. Publishing the column, Day said, endorses discrimination against women, described by Lewis as chicks or girls whose demeanor is often bitchy. What if it's true? Can't say that? Please. Not everyone disagreed with those descriptions. Calling someone girl, in my mind, is in no way vulgar or offensive, layout manager Tier said. What's being claimed as vulgar to me, frankly, is not vulgar. I agree with that, too. Tom Newton, general counsel for the California Newspaper Publishers Association, said silencing differing views could create a chilling impact on news gathering in the future. If the standard for journalism was don't offend anyone, then there wouldn't be any journalism, he said. Regina Karsh, 25, a second-year philosophy major, said she'd be willing to write a letter to the newspaper's editors chastising the column. She said, I think the column was revenge because Lewis couldn't get a date. I just think he had a bad day. Anybody who figures out who this guy is will probably just walk away from him. No, are you kidding me? It's public enemy number one. This guy's going to get laid more than ever. Preferably by chicks who don't go to Sierra College. Eric Fritz Davis is on the line with us. He's the editor-in-chief of this very newspaper, the Sierra College Outlook. Eric, thanks for being on with us.
No problem.
Are you surprised about this controversy?
Well, yeah. I think, we weren't expecting to get quite this amount of furor over the whole thing. There's been daily protests, students carrying signs in front of the cafeteria, marching. They've marched on the president's office. They've marched on the board of trustees meetings. They've marched on equal opportunity officers' offices.
See, I honestly believe if women are protesting against this, it's just because the shoe fit a little too well. The glass slipper fits Cinderella a little too well here. The chicks aren't hot, and they don't like being called on it.
Right. Well, I think the thing is, it's not even really been a student-led protest. There's been faculty members, one in particular, who's taken personal offense to this. A sociology professor on campus who's told his students that they need to be outraged, that this must offend them and they have to act against it. I've heard from some of his students that he's even offering to increase their grades for participating in protests, and he's doing this all during class time.
That's outrageous. Where's the dean of this college?
He's been informed. I've talked to him about teachers manipulating their students, abusing their powers as educators. They're on it, but because it's a sociology professor, it's been kind of a tricky subject. They're allowed to discuss things that they feel might be relevant to the learning environment in their classroom. And this is, as it's a social issue, they have a little bit of leeway there. They have leeway in offering increased grades for participating in a protest against something and taking a particular stand? Well, I'm not sure if that's covered. That's kind of come up recently, and I think they're looking into it. Unbelievable. Right. So people are coming in from off campus and starting all this trouble? I'm sure there has been some people from off campus. In the discussion that you were referring to from that newspaper clipping, there's members from Weave, and we've received a letter from Now as well today. The sociology professor who's kind of been spearheading the movement, he's members in a variety of feminist groups, and he's calling on his position within their groups to use their power to kind of put a stop to this. And have you confirmed that his testicles are attached, or are they being kept in storage somewhere? Well, yeah, I'm not sure that they're on him. Yeah, I bet they're missing. So I'll bet if you unzipped his fly, there'd be nothing in there. Nothing. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back with Eric Fritz Davis. He is the man who is in charge of the Sierra College Outlook newspaper. He's the editor-in-chief, and he was behind the decision, along with others, to publish a column that said that many of the students at Sierra College, the female students, do not fit into the category of hot. And this has caused all kinds of protests against the college, against the newspaper, against the guy who wrote the column. His name was Nicholas Lewis. And I say, you know what, if it's true that these students are not hot, there should be nothing wrong with saying it. It's a free country, for God's sake. If you see reason to object to a column like this being published, I'd love to hear your point of view. I certainly know we have a lot of listeners who are going to agree with our guest here, so let's see what you have to say.
Tom Leykis.
1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866.
You guys are sick. Is this how you make your money?
Yes, it is.
Oh, that is so funny. You're really working hard, aren't you?
Yes.
The Tom Leykis Show.
1-800-5800-TOM. We're here with Eric Fritz Davis. He's the editor-in-chief of the Sierra College Outlook newspaper. Sierra College is located in Rocklin, California, near Sacramento. And to your calls here at 1-800-5800-TOM. It's Tree on the Tom Leykis Show.
Hi, Tom. This is Tree.
Yes.
I was calling because I actually work closely with a domestic violence center. I don't myself. I do HIV/AIDS education. Mm-hmm. And I personally don't see a problem with this article, but to explain where I see a lot of views are coming out is that to objectify women and see them as merely objects.
What does that mean? You know, that is the biggest claptrap. I hear this verbiage all the time.
As I said.
Dear,
see them as objects.
What does that mean?
To see them not as a person.
We are all objects. Look up the word object in the dictionary. We are all objects.
So can I get back to my point?
Dear, before you get to your point, we have to define the terms you are using.
Okay,
Isn't it true that everyone is an object, by definition?
As an inanimate object, how's that?
As an inanimate object? Who is saying that women are inanimate objects?
I'm saying that if you begin to look at women as just things, as not necessarily individuals with feelings, emotions, then that is the root of where domestic violence comes from, because you don't think of them as being as important as yourself. You don't see them as having feelings or emotions.
Well, the reason we don't see women that way is because women expect us to pay for everything, take responsibility for things, lift all the heavy objects, take on all kinds of responsibilities. If women truly were equal and were not always after us to pay for everything and do everything, we would see them as equals. That's why men don't see women as equals.
But when men start to put them in a different category, as in hot or not, and that's all they are.
Men are going to do that. No matter, you can protest till you're blue in the face. Men have been doing that since the beginning of time, and we always will.
But when you only see women in that way, and you don't see them as individual people, that is.
Dear, we see. You know what? We see strangers that way, and the fact is, when we get married to somebody, generally we see them as more than just sex objects. But until then, that's what we see you as. If you're hot, and if you're not, then we don't. By the way, women who are not hot have nothing to worry about. We don't see you as sex objects.
That's not my point. My point is that the reason why domestic...
Don't you understand that men do not see all women as objects? We only see hot women as sex objects. So on the Sierra College campus, if what Nicholas Lewis is saying Lewis said is true, then the women there have nothing to worry about.
Perhaps.
So you understand, seeing women as hot, if that's what causes domestic violence, on a campus where there aren't any hot women, don't worry about domestic violence. It's not going to be an issue.
No, not at all, because as you're saying, men who can't afford hot chicks, men who wish they could have these better, quote-unquote, women. Hotter. Okay, hotter. If they can't, then, they'll hook up with these women that this guy's written an article about saying they're not hot.
Right.
And that's where that starts. If they've always saw women as not as important.
Dear, that is not where it starts. It generally starts with people who came from families where there was domestic violence to begin with.
Because the men didn't see their partners.
Dear, what makes you think, are you a psychiatrist?
No.
Are you a psychologist? Are you a doctor? No, I'm not. But what makes you think you know the root cause of this?
Because studies have shown that the reason why men continually men who have already acted violently against women is because they do not respect them. They see them as objects. They don't see them any deeper than that.
Dear, you know what? It's just like the people who say that marijuana leads to heroin. Many people have smoked marijuana. Many of them do not shoot heroin, okay? The bottom line is all men see women as sex objects. That is how it is. And we all judge you according to how hot you are. There was a TV show called Am I Hot? That's how it is. And there's nothing you can do about it.
I'm not saying there's anything I can do about it.
And we're not going to change.
The reason why
and all the protests in the world are not going to shut up guys like the guy who wrote this column.
Absolutely, it's not. Why I was calling was you said, I want to hear why. That's why I called it. I didn't call to defend.
Well, I still am not convinced that you know the root cause of this. And frankly, I don't happen to agree with what you said. But I thank you for calling in and expressing it, because that's indeed what we want.
The Tom Leykis Show. This is the Tom Leykis Show.
From Los Angeles at 1-800-5800-TOM, we're talking with Eric Fritz Davis, the editor-in-chief of the Sierra College newspaper, The Outlook. From Rockland, California, north of here, where we are, Sacramento. And, no, Rockland, not in Sacramento, near Sacramento, of course. And, we're talking about a column written by a student named Nicholas Lewis, who said that many Sierra College female students do not fit into the category of hot, and it's caused a firestorm of protest. Let us say hello here to Andrea on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello, Andrea.
Hi, Tom.
Hi there.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to get to talk to you finally.
Look at you. Yeah.
As long as I got that out of the way.
Yeah.
Okay, listen, I just want to tell you about the lady that called a minute ago. I'm so tired of these people. I'm sorry, it must be like your bimbo section, but of listeners. But I'm actually a psychotherapist, and I've been waiting to call you forever because I work with single mothers. I work with foster kids. Okay, I actually know what I'm talking about. And no, domestic violence has nothing to do with the fact that men just objectify women. That's BS. It's about power control, and it's totally about a history, like what you're saying, people that come from domestic violence families, okay? So that's all I wanted to say was respond and tell all the listeners that don't know what they're talking about to stop calling up and arguing with you, because you don't need a degree, you just need to pay attention, okay? And that's what you're doing, and that's why I like you.
Thank you so much.
That's all I have to say.
Appreciate the call. It's 1-800-5800-TOM. It's Alicia on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi, Tom. I just wanted to make a comment, and that's the girl that called and said that classifying women as sexy or not sexy makes them seem like inanimate objects, and that classifies or it substantiates the beginning of domestic violence. That, I just don't see that. The reason why there's still domestic violence is, yes, because it is something that's passed on from, the behavior from member to member, but predominantly it's up to us women to put a stop to it, because we're the only ones who really can. I mean, anybody's going to take advantage of you as long as you let them, and as long as women continue to allow men to hit them for whatever reason, it's going to continue, and that's it. It's not, you can be sexy, hot, or cold, or it doesn't matter what you are. If you allow someone to hit you, it's your fault for you letting it happen, or you can't stop someone from striking you the first time, then they come up on you and surprise you with it, but to let it happen again and sit there and let it happen over and over again, yes, that is my responsibility.
That is our biggest problem with dealing with domestic violence, and that is that we never acknowledge that the women who continue to get into abusive relationships are sick, just like the abuser is sick.
Yep.
It takes two to tango, and the bottom line here is that we treat the man like a violent, mean, horrible predator, monster, whatever, and the woman, no matter how many times she gets involved with abusive guys, it's totally okay. Not in need of counseling, not in need of anything but a shelter. She doesn't need a shelter. She needs to go to a mental hospital or a psychiatrist.
Actually going to a psychiatrist is a beneficial thing, because it will allow her to gain some kind of a good grounding for herself to stand and take care of herself. And if she's got children, you take care of it. I mean, there are a lot of single parents out there, both male and female, and they don't subject themselves to abuse from anyone.
Yep.
No matter how many kids you have. I mean, I know you're not too crazy about single parents, but I raised 3 kids on myself, and the man that I married started to become, violent with me, and I said, the hell with this. I don't need this. I didn't marry you for this. I'm gone.
Perfect.
That's all there was to it.
That's what you have to do, period. End of story.
Yeah.
Anybody who continues to get involved with guys like this, they're sick.
Absolutely not. And even, afterward, it wasn't that easy to step away and be at peace, because I knew that he was going to try to come after me, and sure enough, he tried to. And I did what I had to do. I filed restraining orders, and I did get a hold of a weapon, because I was not going to let this person come and hurt me and jeopardize the well-being of my children. If he didn't care enough for our kids, I definitely did. And that's all there was to it. But, not everybody can walk away just like that, but you can try.
Well, you know what? It's a lot easier to do it the first time it happens than to wait until you've been in it for 5 years.
Absolutely, because then, it becomes like an ongoing thing.
You just have to agree that it's wrong, and I hope everybody's hearing what I'm saying. I am completely opposed to violence. Forget about domestic violence. I'm opposed to violence. I'm opposed to committing violent acts against other people, no matter what their gender, no matter under what circumstances.
That is absolutely right. And, in the kind of line of work that
But that doesn't mean you can't look at chicks and decide whether they're hot. This is so stupid.
No, that is stupid. Jesus Christ, we do it all the time.
Of course.
Women look at men to see if they're hot or not, for God's sake. And what? Somebody's going to start telling us that we can't identify a person as to being attractive.
Well, you know how it works. Even if what men do is wrong and terrible and horrible, women have the right to do whatever they like. That's the way the society is set up. It's outrageous. Alicia, thank you for the call. It's Courtney on the Tom Leykis Show. We're here with Eric Fritz Davis. Hello.
Hello, Tom. First of all, I want to say I think you're brilliant. I think that's my sister who's driving along with me, who also thinks you're brilliant.
Cool.
We appreciate that you share your opinion, whether it's going to be popular or not. But I just wanted to say one thing. I certainly admire this guy. He's got some serious chutzpah for writing an article of...
Well, I understand our guest didn't write the column, but he certainly is the editor-in-chief and made sure the column got into the paper despite the protests that followed.
Right. I'm chatting about the fellow who is the author of the article, actually. But I did want to say, I think to an extent, the basis for the whole discussion, which is the equation of self-esteem and beauty, is a bit flawed. Because I think we know historically from several women that have existed throughout time, Marilyn Monroe, Elizabeth Taylor, a slew of women that were incredibly physically beautiful and objectified and is seen as from the whole world's perspective as the most astonishing women, had little or no self-esteem. So I don't think that whether or not these women are attractive equates to whether or not they have self-esteem. I think that inherently is an incorrect assumption on his part, but I certainly don't think that necessarily it's all about self-esteem that leads to domestic violence. I think there are a lot of other factors involved, lifestyle, socialization, things of that nature, that allows that to happen. So
every single man on earth judges women according to how hot they are, but you can't say that every single man on earth commits violent acts against women or anybody.
Absolutely not. That's absolutely not the situation at all. I just thought, however, that these women were probably responding to it. It might have been responding, might I say, along the lines of, whether or not you're attractive may not mean that you necessarily have the highest level of self-esteem. We know that. We've seen that. So there have been tragic occurrences at the end of the lives of several of these women that we've watched and believed were the ones that we all wanted to look like, because self-esteem just simply didn't exist. It's not really something you can gain, I believe, from the outside influences of the world. I think it's inner. I think it's about socialization. And
self-esteem, as we always say on this show, is called self-esteem for a reason. It comes from yourself.
Absolutely.
And nobody else can raise your self-esteem or affect your self-esteem. They just can't do it.
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866.
You have the show that every other jock out there wishes that they had.
This is the show everybody promises, but nobody ever delivers, for Christ's sake.
It's the Tom Leykis Show.
He is Eric Fritz Davis. He's the editor-in-chief of a newspaper called The Outlook. It's the newspaper of Sierra College in Northern California. And they published a column by a student named Nicholas Lewis. He said that many of the female students of Sierra College, quote, do not fit into the category of hot. And it's caused a firestorm of protest. It's 1-800-5800-TOM. That's our telephone number. Let's say hello here to Michael on the Tom Leykis Show.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Michael.
Great show. First time, long time.
Thank you.
I got a question, simple one. Was this article, was it printed as a editorial, or was this the result of a straw poll that he took around the campus? Or because if it's an editorial, I don't see where anyone has any grounds to complain about him exercising his right to free speech as an editorialist. I don't see where any firestorm should have been created as a result of an editorial column. I've certainly read far worse than that under the guise of an editorialist.
Exactly. I think that's one of the key points here. The piece was run as an editorial. It was run on our commentary page, and that the headline of the piece was actually "One Person's Opinion, Sierra's College Girls Aren't Really All That Hot." It was said so right in the title. This is only one person's opinion. I think a much more suitable response would be to write a letter to the editor or a similar commentary piece expressing another point of view instead of what the protesters have been doing, which is calling for my resignation, calling for the faculty advisor's resignation, and calling for the president of the school's resignation. I think they're way out of bounds.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that they're so soft-skinned over somebody who's running a college paper. I would think they would be definitely, hammering on the fact that, there is the First and Fifth Amendment, and I would think they'd be standing behind them a little stronger than they are. If they're going to cave in on the first time that someone raised...
Well, that's a good question. Is anybody caving in here at this point, Eric?
Not at all. Actually, the administration has been totally supportive of the newspaper and our decision to print the piece. It's only been one, maybe two faculty people that are opposed to it. One has really mobilized the students, and one has spearheaded this whole thing.
Are any of them women?
No, it's
guys.
And when other male teachers have told the man spearheading this movement that they don't agree with him, his response is, "I don't care what you think. You're a man." I've heard it 3 or 4 times from him. I just cracked.
Definitely no testicles there. Definitely not.
Right.
Unbelievable. Michael, thank you very much for the call. It's 1-800-5800-TOM. Jamie on the Tom Leykis Show for our guest Eric Fritz Davis. Hello.
Yeah, Eric, this is the deal. I think that all those people are out of line calling for the resignation of everybody else. I think that they should call for the resignation of the director of admissions for that college for letting in so many chicks that aren't hot. I mean, when are they going to be held accountable for ugly chicks on that campus? That's what's really important.
Yeah, that's a good question. Part of the article is the author comments that there are a lot of
director of admissions for that.
All right, turn the radio off there, Jamie. Go ahead, Eric.
Right. The article is actually saying that there are quite a few hot chicks on campus, but he comments that those that are incredibly superficial and have nothing else to them except concerns about the mall, about beauty, about makeup, and there's no other substance to the women. That's his main complaint.
That's where he differs from us, because
right.
We don't want young hot chicks to have substance. We just want them to shut up and do us.
Right.
That's our attitude. My God, he's complaining that these chicks care about nothing else but hair and makeup. That's what they should care about. They need to stay looking hot. That's the important thing. I'm amazed they're at college. I'm amazed they got in.
Yeah, I'm amazed that they'd read the article to take offense of it.
Well, are hot chicks offended?
No, the ones that have been asked, that I've asked, or that local media has asked, none of them really seem to care.
And what about the chicks who are involved in protesting? Are any of them hot?
No, not really.
That's my point.
Right.
Hot chicks never protest when you judge chicks according to how hot they are.
Right.
And that's holding true here. 1-800-5800-TOM. It's Claudia on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi. I have a comment. Being a female, when I was going to USC, I kind of noticed that there really weren't attractive girls there, even the ones that were supposedly physically fit. So I don't know why they're making such a big deal about it. I mean, I've noticed, because I work out 5 times a week, and I have a lot of self-confidence, high self-esteem, and I've been called stuck up. I've been called conceited about it, and I don't know why they would do that. I mean, just because somebody has a lot of confidence and a lot of self-esteem doesn't mean that they're stuck up. You know, so, I mean, I don't know why, I just don't understand why women make such a big deal about it. I mean, if they'd actually do something with themselves and dress up and, just kind of like get pedicures and manicures, I mean, they would look a little better. But I've noticed that a lot of women on campus, a lot of the females, don't really care about themselves. They're always wearing shorts. They're always no makeup. I mean, how is a guy going to consider you attractive if you don't dress you don't fix yourself up, you don't go to the gym?
Well, their explanation is that attractiveness shouldn't matter. These are the women who don't care to look attractive.
Yeah.
That men should not judge women according to how attractive they are. But of course we do. And always will. And if you're hot, we're happy about it.
Yeah, but I mean, they could do something about it, I mean, with men saying this, I mean, hello, light bulb, do something about it,
Right.
So I just don't get it. I mean, some women are just, I don't know.
Now, do you have a college degree, Claudia?
Yes, I do.
In what?
In business admin.
Really?
Yeah.
And you're hot?
Yes.
The other women must have hated that.
I still get it up to this day.
But you have no interest in actually being a CEO at a company, right? Eventually you'll get married, have kids.
I want to get married. I want to have kids. And I want to, be up there in the ladder. I don't want to be one of those women that stay home and don't do anything,
Right, but you'll never be like the chairman of the board of a big company or anything, will you?
I don't know. Maybe I will. Who knows?
Yeah, because you got to work so hard. When you're that hot, some guy will pay all the bills. You don't need to do that.
Yeah, but I don't want to stay home and be lazy either,
Oh, you don't have to stay home. My God, when you got money like that, you can travel, you can go out and take up, play tennis during the day, things like that.
No, that's not my thing.
Really? Well, I'll tell you what, if you make it to be CEO of a big company, you'll be one of the few hot chicks doing it. Ever read Fortune magazine? We tell you all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Well, Claudia, thank you very much for the call.
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866.
I've been out and about, and I've seen these crazy bumper stickers. I saw this one the other day that said, driver carries no cash, he's married. Why doesn't he just put a big bumper sticker that says, hey, I'm a pussy, my wife got my balls?
I hadn't heard of that bumper sticker.
The Tom Leykis Show.
Tom Leykis Show. Eric Fritz Davis, editor-in-chief of the Sierra College Outlook newspaper. What's going to happen next year? Is this going to peter out, or is it going to keep going?
It looks right now like it's going to keep going. We released our last issue, the one that's caused all the controversy, about 2.5 weeks ago now. There have been protests for 2 weeks straight. There's been the community forum where we all discussed it, came to an agreement, or no agreement. We discussed all points of view here, and everyone really seemed to agree with the right to print the opinion. The people that are opposed to this still keep protesting and say they're pressing suit against the campus, against me, my staff, our faculty.